Hey guys, welcome back to another video. How are we feeling? What's happening? How are we doing?
I really hate your questions. We're doing bad, the market is still crap, we're feeling bad. Any other questions?
So today we're going to be talking about something that is super important. We will be discussing how to eliminate my shadow self.
What now?
Just kidding. We're going to be exploring the fuel situation, how we got here, and what we can expect in the future. Ready? Let's go! Well, I'm happy to report that the price of diesel has been steadily going down. Just in a week, diesel prices went down from 2 to 18 cents depending on the state. And it's finally possible to find diesel under $5, especially if you're running in those southern or Midwestern states, and especially if you're using that RTS fuel card. As I always mention, we use RTS and I couldn't be happier with them. And this is not just because of the discounts that card gives, it's also because they have such a huge network of places that accept those cards and give you discounts. So it makes everything just super simple. Now, the real question is, what will happen next with fuel? Well, to understand that, we have to know what caused this whole shitstorm in the first place. Now, we know why fuel prices increased initially.
Yeah. Thanks, Putin.
Now, I have a lot of feelings about this, which I am going to actually put to the side for this video. So let's look at the facts. The day that he who shall not be named invaded Ukraine, the fuel prices spiraled out of control everywhere. Now, the US is actually the world's largest producer of oil, but it's also the second largest importer of oil in the world. Now, Russia is the third largest producer of oil, and roughly half of all of Russia's exports went to Europe, and about 8% went to the United States before this whole war thing started. Now, since he who shall not be named invaded Ukraine, the whole world basically turned away from Russia and imposed sanctions that prevent Russia from selling its oil to other major economies. And because of the reduction in global supplies, the prices went through the roof.
Okay, but since the US is the largest producer of oil in the world, why are we having this problem?
Well, there are several reasons for this, and as much as I would love to blame everything bad that happens on him who shall not be named, the reality is there are a lot of factors at play. One of them is COVID that happened 2 years ago. See, when COVID hit 2 years ago, the world basically went crazy with all the restrictions, lockdowns, and basically it was Armageddon. And because there were those lockdowns and restrictions, people were forced to stay at home. And when people are forced to stay at home, they're not really in need of fuel because they're not driving anywhere. And when the demand for fuel dips, so do the prices. That's why in 2020, the fuel rates were some of the lowest in years. Now let's go a little bit further. What happened when the prices of fuel went into free fall? Well, of course, production gets slashed to prevent further losses. Now that restrictions have eased up completely or are easing up, of course, the demand for fuel is on the rise and it's actually back to pre-COVID levels. But the problem is that oil production is much harder to restart than oil consumption. Oil producers have been extremely cautious about quickly opening their taps because they're afraid that the price of oil will go down again and they will get burned just like in COVID times. Now, pair that decreased oil production with absolutely no imports from the third largest producer of oil, and basically you'll have a shortage of oil and therefore a hike in those diesel and fuel prices. Now, let's take it even further. The political environment in this country has not helped this craziness one bit. President Joe Biden came into office vowing to transition the US economy from fossil fuels. And to keep true to his word, he has cut back on allowing energy companies to drill for oil in the future. Now, pair this with his elimination of the plan for Keystone XL to transport over 800,000 barrels of crude from Canada to US per day. This oil is still going to cross the border, but now by rail, which makes it much more expensive. Now, the big question is, what awaits us in the future? And honestly, my friends, it does not look good.
Great! Here we go with the pessimism.
Currently, the EU has agreed to a full-on embargo on Russian crude oil that will take effect in around March 2023. This will possibly halt 90% of Russia's crude exports and is done to back Russia into a corner and hopefully stop the war in Ukraine. Now, this embargo will come at a cost. literally. As I mentioned before, Russia is a major exporter of oil, and as the West is trying to curb its exports, there is a risk that there is going to be less oil on the global market. And if there is less oil on the global market than there is today, well then...
I get it, we're all screwed.
So to reel it back into reality, the future of the trucking industry that heavily depends on diesel, which is crude oil in reality, basically the future doesn't look too bright, but we'll see what happens next.
Well, what can I say? Thanks for ruining our day.
Now is the time to get that fuel card if you do not have one. Now I will link the RTS card down below because this is the one that we use and I trust it. So if you're interested, go and check it out. Remember, keeping that cost of fuel down, even with the smallest discounts, can be the difference between staying afloat and sinking down to the bottom. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new, and remember, just be proactive, plan for the future, and learn something new every day. I'll see you guys in the next video.